Untamed is going to be untamed. It's going to be a little crazy. I want to talk to my people. I want to talk to my brothers and sisters. We can have grace and humility in how we interact with other people.
Oh, hot dog, look at you.
And nobody talked about what's really happening.
And let's have conversations about what truth is.
Do you believe votes were manipulated, changed electronically in favor of Joe Biden? And if so, how was it done?
Well, I certainly do believe it, sir, because I saw it on TV on the crawls underneath television coverage of the election. At least two cases. One had about 12,000 votes that magically went from Trump to Biden. And another one about 20,000 votes. And both times, Trump's numbers decreased by exactly the number that Biden's increased. And so before any of this came about, I just had a strong inkling that something was afoot here. And the more they suggest that the intelligence service, our intelligence service, were involved in it, I tend to think that there probably was a great deal of vote marking by people when they found out how many votes they needed to surpass Trump in places like Pennsylvania and Michigan. I think clearly the Dominion company, if nothing else, it's foreign interference in the American election. It's a Canadian company. And it was storing its records in Germany and Spain for some reason.
Michael, who was behind this then?
Certainly appear to be part of the Central Intelligence Agency, using for their political operations overseas. They use servers and store materials and do other things. And the fact that the ones in Germany were held or grabbed by U.S. forces because they were CIA servers. And in Europe, the CIA operates under the jurisdiction of the military. And so the military was responsible for seizing those with the help of the German authorities. And those servers are now in the hands of the FBI, which doesn't make me very comfortable, but at least they're in American hands.
Every day we talk about the same thing. It always comes back to elections. It always comes back to, do we have free and fair elections anywhere in the country? And I put out a bunch of information. I put out a post where I just had to ask President Trump, and it's not even heavy on it's not even top of my list when it comes to the things I want to talk about early on in this conversation. But we still have the same people that are saying there's nothing to see here. We still have the same lawfare. Now, it's gotten past the point where the people recognize that the election's been stolen and that we don't have free and fair elections anywhere in the country. We don't have them in any state, not all 50 states, none of the 50 states. There's no free, fair elections at any point. And for those that say, well, President Trump won in 2024, explain that. Well, they had to take that chess piece off the table. He can only run one more time, this is the 4 years. Although, it's been argued that maybe he could run more than one more time. Although he's 80 years old, so I think it's time that he probably enjoys the rest of his life. It's time for somebody else to come in and finish the job. Now, figuring out who that is, who's going to come in and do the right thing by the American people, I don't know who that person would be. But I do want to say this. We all know, but you have this problem. You still have lawyers that run around parroting the same stuff. You have the Mark Eliases of the world. You have people that are inside of Dominion. You have people that work for the election systems or benefit from it, like people like Matt Crane in Colorado, whose wife worked for Dominion for over 18 years. Before it was Dominion, it was Sequoia. You have people like Eric Coomer, who made bold statements that don't worry about it, Trump's not going to win. Trump didn't win. And we saw what happened on November 3rd. And you put two and two together with his anti-Trump rhetoric, his anti-police rhetoric, anti-United States rhetoric, F the USA. And then you put that together with the posting of the Antifa manifesto and being on the Antifa call and having an affidavit they were able to get a couple days after they were trying to prove that, the call never occurred. But you have notes, and you have the notes that align with a call that they had, but they pinky swear on their side, radical left, from a guy, by the way, that is accused by over 50 children of piddling them. Yeah, I think as you look at the facts of the case, it becomes real easy to come to the conclusion that no, Eric was on it. But then I wanted to be able to get through all of that, and let's prove that Dominion can actually steal elections. In comes the audits, in comes the Tina Peters getting access to the machines up in Mesa County, the 3 reports, and finally the 4th report that was put out 2 years after. You have Mark Cook going out showing you how you can manipulate the systems. You had Jeff Lindbergh just before that showed you how you can manipulate the systems. You had the information that came out of Antrim with the ASOG report that said that the systems were designed to defraud the American people's voice. We've had Matt DePerno on here. We've had Patrick Byrne, who spent $100 million, done a video on how they stole the elections. We saw what happened in the runoff election in 2021, Jan 5, 2021. I largely predicted the outcome of that election. Largely is kind of a grayish term. I predicted the outcome of the 2021 runoff election for the Senate races, and two, Warnock being one of them. And I said exactly what would happen, what would have to happen. And I used their own system architecture in order to predict what vulnerabilities were in the system and how they were going to do it. How did I do that? How did I do that within a month and a half of an election that we had on November 3rd, 2020? I'm going to tell you that you can't do that unless you understand system architecture, you understand it well, and then you look at how the systems operate and what would be necessary in order to make sure that the election had a specific outcome. I subsequently went to go sit with Pompeo, because I was said on that Jan 6, you need to go meet with Pompeo. And John Eastman went and got on the stage of the ellipsis and repeated all the things that I had told him about the system and how they were going to steal the election. And when he saw the election stolen, he was convinced. He's like, I 100% believe everything that you're telling me. As did everyone else that I talked to that I had no knowledge of or no conversations with previous to that. But over the last 6 years, we've been going back and forth and beating the drum and putting up with people on our side, like Jovan Pulitzer, who says it's all the ballots, it's not the machines, it's not the machines, even though early on he said it was the machines. Remember, he sat in a conference in Georgia and said that right now he had people that had hacked into a poll pad, even though that was fabricated as well. And here's a guy whose only job before that was, selling someone a QCat, which was basically a handheld scanner. He took a bunch of companies millions of dollars and then just disappeared. But then he came back and he was a treasure hunter, and he said he found a sword that he never found. And no matter where you look, it's not just the Jovan Pulitzers that we have a problem with that stepped in the middle of the Maricopa audit and created chaos so that couldn't get off its feet. But you had other people that did the same thing that said, hey, we're on your side. We're here to help. But they, in large part, made people walk away from the election fraud inside of the machines. Now, let me just separate the machines from the software. You cannot have software if it doesn't operate on a machine. So we're not talking about some innate object and the machine did this and it's like some robot. No, it's a program system. It is a software package that operates on devices, right? Machines that allow for them to steal the election. And those have databases in it. You have the EMS and you have the MBP, mail ballot printers, and you have all sorts of tabulation systems. And I mean, it's a pretty sophisticated system for something that's designed just to count your vote. And I say that because over the last 6 years, there's been a lot of information. And if you listen to anything that we talked about on Friday, it'd be pretty difficult not to come to the same conclusion with Matt DePerno that they've done a pretty convincing job at first of saying nothing to see here, safest, most secure elections in U.S. history, misinformation, disinformation, the same dog whistles. You're an election denier. And you had people from all walks of life that mostly were just journalists for entertainment purposes and decided to move over to the news side and just slander people with impunity. I mean, they had the media down pat. But they didn't count on the resilience of people to stand up. Now, they thought that they were going to squash all of it with the Jan 6 insurrection. Nobody wants to be associated with an insurrection. Nobody wants to be associated with doing some treasonous act against their country, although that's not what happened either. And yet, as we look through all of the tons of videos that weren't released by our own government, you come to the same conclusion, and that conclusion is pretty obvious. The government was involved in the J6. The government was involved in the overthrowing of the vote of Donald J. Trump. And there are more than a few people that are intimately involved in this that said they're on our side. So before I get into all the stuff about Dar Leaf, which I want to talk about, I've been vindicated several times in several different ways. Every time Eric Coomer opens his mouth, it's a new gift that keeps giving. And if it's not him, it's definitely his attorneys who acted maliciously and with malice to defraud the court. They knew they had a joint defense agreement with Dominion Voting Systems. They knew about the fact that Eric Coomer was not some innocent bystander sitting on the sideline, that he was intimately involved and understood how to program and change the outcome of a system, because there's emails to prove it. But they thought, we're going to be able to hide that. They didn't consider that Stephanie Lambert was going to step out and say, no, there's been crimes committed. We need to uncover these crimes, and handed those emails over to a sheriff. And they didn't think about Sheriff Dar Leaf doing the right thing and creating transparency just so that he could hold the government accountable. And when he did so, using those same emails and letters that he wrote to say, why aren't you doing anything? Why, Jim Jordan, are you sitting on your ass? Why, John Thune? You keep repeating the same parroted bullshit that there's nothing to see here. There's nothing wrong with our elections. They didn't expect the fact that Dar Leaf would take it even further, even after losing his son, and continue down the road of investigating a faulty system at best and a diabolical system at its worst. He didn't expect it. Nobody expected it. Nobody expected that I would continue to stand and speak for 6 years, to take the beatings that I took, that Patrick Byrne would do the same, that Professor David Clements would do the same. True people that are patriots and believe in this idea of the opportunity they've had in their lives and wanting that same opportunity for the next generation that obviously does not exist. I put this up. And I put up this post, and I'm probably going to skip ahead to it. I'm going to put up A8, if you would, please. Since I'm being censored, I'm going to stop for a minute. I'm going to go ahead and reshare this on X. So just give me a second to reshare what we're talking about. We are talking about election fraud. You can share too while we take this quick break. Just hit the share button. I think this is probably the most important broadcast I've done to date. We're going to go through some information. I'm going to talk about what happens inside the black box and, why Eric Coomer, why was he involved in all of this? And, they know this. They all knew this. That's why they stood up and said, okay, Eric, you have to sue all these people to keep Oltmann quiet because we need him quiet. And then we're not going to sue him because Dominion didn't sue me. And then we'll just sue everyone else, including Fox, which, by the way, we have the same PE firms involved. We'll just move money from one to the other. I mean, we launder money anyway in what we do. So it's nothing different than what we normally do. We just do it legally now, and everybody can see it, and hope that we can chill the effect of people looking into elections. So we're talking about election fraud and the breaking information out of Sheriff Dar Leaf. Latest drop. It vindicates me and others once again. Here we go. Let's put that up there. Let's see if that actually does anything. If you're on X and you want to share, please share. I can't seem to. I mean, it happens all the time. It heats up, and we get a bunch of play on the reruns that we run. But somebody was really up all night trying to do everything they could to stop us from publishing some things. So I just finally went out and spent money on it, and then they shut down the spending money to boost it account because can't have the information out there. Anyway, let's go through this really quick. Make sure I got this. Hit the little up button. There you go. Tucker's interview today. Oh, I'll send some to Tucker. I don't think he's being truthful. Okay. So I said, wow, the cartel called themselves all back to the organized crime home base, it appears. Bill Barr, Mike Pompeo, and who could forget the former AG of Virginia, Jason Mayares, who personally stood in the way of the investigation of obvious massive election fraud. Pat Cipollone, White House counsel to President Trump, who stood in the way of the 2020 election investigation, and Patrick Philbin, an assistant under Cipollone in the first Trump administration. They all end up together, tied as partners, more like made men, purveyors of treason, traitors, and betrayers of the American people. People they consider the haves, as they consider the people the have-nots, or more appropriately, slaves. Do you wonder why an Epstein can exist and thrive raping children in broad daylight? Do you wonder how a Virginia Giuffre can be raped over and over again, left to fight alone for justice, only to give into the demons of hopelessness and take her own life? These less than men, yet above the law, protected by judicial henchmen, devils. That is how. They mock the power that we have because as the people, we are not yet to understand that power. And after all, we ended slavery for a time. We ended segregation. We've ended wars, fought for the weak and vulnerable, and we many times stopped tyranny from finality. It's kind of the way we're at right now. Yet, as an example of the cons that they run for bringing up the misdeeds of our ancestors, like a scornful ex-wife brings up the real and sometimes made-up victimization, they want us to pay for it, not because it is legitimate, but because the stupid and talentless will see it as legitimate. Pandemonium and chaos, while they mock, laugh at, and stuff their faces as we fight over their created nonsense. There's opportunity in chaos, but not for the people, only for the criminal cartels, the self-determined haves. Organized crime, that is what our country has become, a mockery of our nation's ethos, a mockery of all that God blessed us with and for. I will not play their game. I will not bow down to this evil, and neither should you. President Trump, I don't know who took your destiny from you. I don't know who took you off your path you were determined to walk and even promise, but it must stop. You cannot negotiate with evil, no matter the promise. Evil waits, evil plans, evil lies, evil consumes. Evil does not stop, nor can it make a pact with evil, because it will never, ever keep their word. Lies only get bigger, the gap between what is and what should have been, bigger and more obvious. You are not the only one, Mr. President. You cannot protect what is sacred to you if you do not destroy that which is degraded and destroyed what is sacred to the people. I think you know this. It's been said, wait, just wait. Q predicts it. It's 5D chess. At the last minute, Trump will save the nation. These are all things that they say we just should be patient for. Well, I think it's time you come through the front door, Wreck-It Ralph, and do what only you can do. Finish it. No one is going to make it out of this life alive, and you're only a fool if you do not think this is God's final test for you. Or let these disloyal cartel made men make a fool out of you and take from you what was never theirs to take. And no, it's not complicated. Arrest them all, fire who you want, and turn chaos into your advantage. And watch as the good people help you finish the job. At least consider it. Pray about it. So this is accompanied by pictures. And we take the first picture. This is a law firm in downtown DC and called Torridon. And Torridon, you see the top left-hand picture, that is Bill Barr. Then you have Pat Cipollone, and then you have Patrick Philbin down there at the bottom. Let's go to the next page. And you have none other than, oh, there he is, Michael Pompeo, and then you have Jason Mayares. There's more people in the list. There's more people on the list, but I mean, let's call it what it is. You got the entire cartel that comes together. They got to keep real tight-lipped. They got to stay together. They got to make sure that they can I want to also say this. Maybe it's just a maybe they just did it not knowing what it is, but Toradon means a place of transference. So maybe it's because they like to launder money. I don't know. I can only infer what I don't know. Now I want to come back to Darleaf in 2020, and it's funny that Tucker Carlson would say that there is no proof that the election was stolen in 2020. I'll deal with that, Jeff. I'll send him a text message and saying, all right, when do you want to sit down and go through all of it if you want? The only reason he hasn't seen any proof of the 2020 is he's not looking for it. He's never sat down and walked through any of the detailed documents. And maybe it's time we give him that time where he can sit down and go through it. Like everything else, Tucker Carlson will come back to the dance. If he sees it as real and legitimate and he can see it and go, holy cow, oh my gosh, he'll be fine. Let's talk about Darleaf's letter that he sent he dropped on Friday. This is pretty significant. This is a letter to President Trump at the White House. It says, Dear Honorable President Trump, I'm writing to inform you that I have evidence of an urgent security threat. Liberty Vote has concealed its employment of Venezuelans and the fact that past Dominion, Smartmatic, Sequoia employees and contractors are currently working for the company. Edmundo Rojas is one example. Mr. Rojas is from Caracas, Venezuela, and worked for Dominion Voting. Edmundo Rojas and others were permitted remote access to the U.S. election equipment by virtual machines, and the access went undetected by clerks across the country. The insider threat is not isolated to Edmund Rojas. I have evidence of other critical Dominion employees with remote access having transferred to Liberty. Attached will find proof of Dominion, and Eric Coomer's email reflected that he serendipitously accessed early voting results using a Win EDS server prior to pushing the result files to the official EMS. Eric Coomer coordinated the access during the November 2020 election with a network that included Ronald Morales and Serbian foreign nationals. I hear experts are promoting a patch and often measures to address vulnerabilities. Mr. President, you have an insider threat problem, and that patch cannot correct. Hey, take it down. For those of you that are just joining us, I want to be able to be as clear as possible when we start looking at these documents that we're about to talk about. And I used to just get really mad, but now I'm to that place where I can just taste blood. Blood's in the water. It's not my blood. But the more I get into the things that Eric Coomer has done, if he would have just kept his fat mouth shut, it never would have gotten to the point where I would have thought, nobody even knew who he was. I didn't know who he was. Had he not been on that call, had he not done that, I wouldn't look for him. And yeah, maybe someone would have gotten to the bottom of it. Probably someone wouldn't have predicted the outcome of the 2021 runoff race for the Senate runoff race. But I think it's all providence. I think at some point you got to call it what it is. It's providence. I mean, one thing led to another. It's kind of like I equate it to the Oklahoma City bombing, right? Timothy McVeigh. The way that they caught him was it was providence. He's driving down the street in an old car. They pull him over. Boom, they got their guy, right? It was a feeling, a gut feeling. To me, it wasn't a gut feeling. It was just being able to validate all the information we learned on November 3, 2020, and who was in charge and who was responsible for it. And the more we learned, the worse it got. Not just the character of Eric Coomer, who, man, couldn't have been, this guy couldn't have got a job working at McDonald's, couldn't have passed the background check to work at McDonald's. And yet he became the chief architect in 2005 and for 16 years stuck around and did some pretty crazy stuff inside the election systems. It's about truth. And the more we learn, the worse it gets for everyone. So I put something up. I had a video that I put up on Facebook. I've learned I can't put the same material up on every post. But here's some of the stuff that he puts up. Here's the letter from him. But then I have the next post. If you can put up the next one, I'll kind of walk through these with you. So this one goes through. There's 3 documents for it. I'm gonna have to put on my glasses for this one, aren't I? Yes, I am. Now let's go through some of the people that are on here. You have Martine Punt. You have Exafon Maragos. You have Nick Loco no Makis. He, by the way, you have Goran Obrodovic. These are all people in Serbia, by the way. These are not people that are in the United States. Now, I want to go through this with you because this starts on October 30th, right? October 30th, you can walk through this, and this is from Alex Soto Vasquez, again, another Venezuelan. And it's being sent to Mark McKinney, Martin, and Zafan Marangos and Sheehan Smith. So I'm sorry, Eric Coomer, of course, he's second on the list. It says attached to the number of ballots cast per tabulator to date for Chicago. We are processing about 400 voters a day, in average 4 more days to go for EV. Please note the location 52 is spread into 4 tabulators. Adding tabulators to this late stage, procedural speaking, might be a challenge. We will start loading EV on Monday night. We'll export them and load them into Win EDS, one at a time. We loaded successfully yesterday in first EV machine with 3.3 ballots cast. Export from RTR took less than 5 minutes. Mapper took less than a minute. Loading to Win EDS took 30 minutes. Thanks, Alex. And Mark had to respond to this. So we'll put that one up. And it says, I have added Shanice to this email string. She's probably more aware of what we're discussing. Or just below it, I think. I went the wrong way. And 32. Hold on. Yeah, but it's earlier on. So you have to go to the bottom one first, or at 9:28. So let's go the other direction. I'm sorry. As I was reading it, I was like, this doesn't make any sense. Let's go back the other way. So if you go to the 4th one, it's the 4th one. Yeah. Then go back on that. This is Martine that sent it to Alex, Eric Coomer, and everyone else. Now, I want to start by saying this. This was 4 days before the election. 5 days before the election. So 5 days before the election, they're inside the system and they are planning what they're going to do. Now, there's a couple reasons why this is problematic. One, they're planning out what they're about to do. And I want to point out as they go through and they're looking at the tabulators, okay? And you look at the emails on here, it says at Dominion Voting, 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 at Dominion. Do you see anything in there that is like Illinois.gov? How about Chicago.illinois.gov? Anywhere in there? So as you start looking through these emails, what's going to become more evident, and I put them all up on my X post. I'm going to post them on every one of my other platforms, so you'll be able to see all of them, is that it was outside of the purview of the public. So this is a vendor. I'm just going to get to the nefarious nature of Dominion voting systems. Dominion controlled everything. They controlled everything. They controlled winners, losers, how the data was packaged, where it was sent. And the entire time they lied and said it was user error. It was somebody inside of the county that screwed things up. What this shows is a pattern of getting into the system, getting information, getting it out, and not communicating with or having any sort of public-facing scrutiny. None. There's zero. There's not one person when he goes through this. All right, so let me read this first part to you. We have performed testing on our non-clustered servers to see the performance of loading results from early voting tabulators with 12,000 cast ballots. We simulated 2 result files. One, worst case scenario, random activation code and random language loaded in 64 minutes. 2, better case scenario, random activation code, but all for one language loaded in 24 minutes. Scenario 2 seemed to be more likely based on the example results file we received. Most ballots in that result filed were English. Exporting the number 1 result file took 5 to 10 minutes on a development machine with a much slower, which was much slower than the server. So they exported the information onto another machine. Okay, got it. Exporting the number 1 result. Okay, all of this was done for number 1 result file at a time. We're going to simulate 59 EV result files, each with 12,000 ballots across, according to scenario number 2, and start loading in parallel tomorrow. Our recommendations are, he walks through load times. Now, the reason why this is important, I know this is watching paint dry. Not really something I want to do either. But it goes through and it talks about identifying, perhaps a good idea to identify which early vote tabulators have an extremely high turnout. Close the poll for these existing tabulators, replace cards with another logical tabulator created in EED, possibly create in Win EDS as well, and start loading the result because it might last some, I think it says time. It might last. What do you think about the potential procedure? So it goes back, and this Eric Coomer responds. Sorry, the recommendations are different from what we have been in discussion. What have been discussion? I don't know. I mean, kind of a weird English. Zen's idea, which I support, was to use load from directory. Okay. For the EV files directly from the server files are on the server. Client is on the server. This allows us to, you ready for this? Skip adjudication. This is important. This is important because we're going to talk about what happened in Mesa County. Automatic loading does not have a switch to skip. There are potentially more performance issues using load from directory than automated loading. With 50 or 52 EV sites, I really do not think replacing tabulators at this late stage is advisable or possible. Just replacing them. So then we have an email that came back from Mark. It says, hey, I'm adding in Shanice to the email string as it should probably be aware of what we are discussing. So let's go back to Shanice real quick. Make sure that I got this right. Shanice's email is Shanice, I might be saying it wrong, .smith@dominionvoting.com. Probably the salesperson or liaison, right? I agree with Eric's comments, but I want to add for information purposes, Chicago uses the results of as many of the EV tabulators as it can on Monday night, which is good. Cook always waits until the next morning. If possible, it would be good to see if Cook could bring these result cards downtown on Monday night so that we could be loaded. Best to get as much of this out of the way as possible. Second thought is normally we set batch size in Win EDS around 30 when loading EV. I think we should lower that to 5 to 10. Would not hurt the performance, but that much, which is not English. And since there aren't many EV machines, as the polls close on Tuesday, we can set the values higher through a figure around 50 to 75 should be sufficient. Okay, then that gets into what they were talking about before, which is attached to the number of ballots cast per tabulator. Okay, so here's the problem with this, and we'll go to the next set of emails as well. All these emails came out of Dominion Voting Systems case in Washington, D.C., Dominion v. Patrick Byrne. And the amount of information, this is not the most damning. And it's purposely, they're keeping the most damning because I know, because I've asked over and over and over again. I'm like, guys, this isn't the most damning. They're like, no. I'm like, give me the most damning. I want the most damning information out there. Like, we can't really do that just yet. I'm like, okay. And that's the information that I need. Now, I did not reach out to Sheriff Darley because he's in an investigation. So I reached out to people that I know and said, hey, I'd really like to get access to this information, which, by the way, everyone is fighting. All right. So then we go to the next set of emails. Now we're going to have to go all the way to the end on this one too. So that was on 1030. Now we have the 1031, right? So this gets into 1031. This is Martine Punt talking to Alex, Mark, Eric Coomer. And it says, we have tested loading the simulated early voting results. They have tested the early voting results. Okay. I need to, what's difficult here is that I'm going to go back and forth. The Mesa County report talked about a separate database on the MySQL database management software that was on the system for Dominion in Mesa County. And it had votes. And it showed how the votes were being switched in and out. And here you have the same thing that's kind of happening here. Not that we can see it happening, but they talked about test ballots, test votes. Well, you got to have where they come from and how did they end up in the election as a part of the 2020 election. So, which I'm trying to simplify this so that everyone can understand it. These emails, though, as you go into them, starts talking about. Let me just let's go to the page, the second page. Go to the next page. Is that the last one? Okay. So this is Eric Coomer. Thanks, Martine. And to clarify, each file is taking roughly a half hour to load. And then Martine says, yeah, that's a rough estimate, but yes, half hour each. We are still testing. And then Eric says, let's go to the next page, which will be at the top of that page. At a half hour, hopefully max, that's well over 24 hours of every cartridge to 12,000 votes. This obviously concerns the crap out of me. Not sure we want to do to mitigate, but obviously we need to try to get everything loaded on Monday night. So Monday night would be the day before elections. Now they're loading things onto the cards for Monday night. Why are they loading stuff onto the cards for Monday night? Why? Why before the election are they loading stuff onto the? I mean, there's just stuff that I'm looking where I'm like, okay, well, procedurally, make it make sense to me. Hopefully the file, and then Mark says, hopefully the files will be somewhat smaller. It's going to take a while. I'm worried about Cook, especially. They really need to get part of this done on Monday night. And then you have Mark or Alex after that says, or the 30 minutes to load into RTR, right? If that's the case, we're in real trouble because on top of that, there's an additional 60 minutes to import them through Cartridge Manager before they go into Win EDS. If we do it one at a time. We could cut down the time in 4 if we use the 4-Win EDS to run the Cartridge Manager. So 90 minutes total for one cartridge attached to the number per tabulator in Chicago. As of last night, 3 more voting days. Our average per cartridge would be around 66K QR ballots. Am I missing something? So then that caused Eric Coomer to respond. No, you're not missing anything. It's 30-minute max for 12,000 ballots. Yes, we may have some serious timing problems. Not sure there's anything we can do other than do our best. We can set up the cartridges to load overnight and they can come in we can, and it's quotes, come in, we can export and load into WinEDS. Martine, do you have any issue here? If we load from directory, can we also export loaded results? So they go back and forth. Now, the reason why this starts getting really choppy, we can skip past this, is that, oh, geez. This just came in. Copy link. Let me send this to you guys so you have it. Sorry, everyone. It's got some more information that came in from DNI. Ulti. This is dated the 29th of June. Okay, we'll come back to that. Don't put it up yet. All right. So I'm trying to explain to you as much as I possibly can about these emails. And we have so many more. Can we put up the next ones? Can we go to the next ones? No, not that one. Here, I'm going to put it out. I'll put it out so you guys can read it. Let me give you the breakdown of what I was able to uncover. Okay. And I'll be able to put out all the documentation related to this. I just asked my lawyers what I am and am not allowed to release to you, because I want to release as much as I possibly can of stuff that I have that I think is important. I think it's important for you to go through. So Eric Coomer has stated that he had no functional job, right, operational job related to the elections, that it was all behind the scenes. Excuse me, and he was just support. So the problem with that is, if you go through these emails, he personally copied election data to network storage, loaded it through the RTR into and Win EDS. He retried raw card data. He restored a cook image, and he operated a clone environment. Now, these are things you'd remember, right? I mean, it's the 2020 election. Now, he said in depositions that he can't recall anything that he did on election day. Seems hard to believe given all the details that we have in these emails, but there's more. There's more stuff. So he was visible in the operational chain and did the work, right? The bigger issue is that nobody inside these emails was included anyone from the county clerks. So when the county clerks say, I don't have any problems, there's nothing happening, that everything's fine, there's nothing wrong with the machines, I now can look at it and go, that probably checks. They have the ability inside the system, especially with the new democracy suite, that they can just make universal changes across the board very quickly. And they talked about doing this in Georgia, by the way. And you'd never know it. You'd never, ever know it. So the issue here is who owns the elections. Now, they've said they don't own the elections. So states and local jurisdictions retain legal authority. So who is actually performing the technical acts that move results, move data? And that appears to be Dominion, not just in these documents, but in other documents we've been able to obtain. So the first question is that, did Eric Coomer have the authority? Did he have the authority? Did he have the access that would allow him to do it? He clearly has the access. Clearly has access. He clearly has access at the highest levels, because some of the emails are him actually giving people in Serbia access to certain servers and server logs and code. Nobody has, if you have access to that, you have access to everything. But here's the problem. When he said that he didn't have anything to do with it, these exhibits will actually show that he were not detached advisors, that they were the ones operating the workflow. So the workflow is being done directly by Eric Coomer. Now, you don't have the logs because they won't give you access to it. We don't have the government side documentation because they didn't include them in any of the emails. And Dominion has since been sold off to this pirated sale to another one of their cartel members. So there's no visibility at all. None. And the account failure, you couldn't get to, if you were to audit it, how could you get to the place where you could understand the information when the very people that are supposedly running the elections have no idea what's happening inside the system? While Eric Coomer's back there wrecking Ralphing, changing everything and making sure this card does this and putting it up here. And he's doing all the things. He's literally working inside the system. Now, you have to look at where it traces back to. It's not uncommon for the guy that was a chief architect starting in 2005 that built the systems. He was responsible for the entire platform to understand how to use it. Okay. But then he moved on, and a couple of years later became the VP of engineering. Then when it became Dominion in 2010, he became the VP of engineering. And then in 2013, he became the director of product strategy and security. He was in the role from the beginning, the genesis of a system that was built to defraud the American voter. Okay. And you could say whatever you want. This system is dog shit. It's worse than dog shit. Worse than this would be, you'd have to go back to the 16th century where you, I don't know, had to put in a jelly bean. I don't even know what could be worse than this. This system is not just fundamentally flawed. It was designed to be that way. If you're working on the election system the day before or 2 days before the election, your system is shit. It's not a real system. Like anyone can build a system that can withstand this scrutiny. Anyone. Any CMS system that's job is to count something would be relatively easy to do. Super easy. Even if you had 20,000 different ballot image types, it'd be super easy, especially today with AI, it'd be real easy. So let's talk about what an EDS is and what RTR is, right? So RTR is results tally and reporting. It's a Dominion's election management application that was used to receive and process the results. So WinEDS is it's the legacy system that goes back to how Chicago loads, combines, tallies, and reports results on from the equipment. Okay. When you go through what Eric Coomer is talking about, he talks about the results cartridges, the NAS staging. You have the RTR load and unload, or loading of the tally. You have the export result files, and then you have the WinEDS. And the WinEDS matters because it's not just a storage folder. Okay. When he calls out the loading, he identifies multiple EDS machines and treats the loading as a step required to get the early voting data into the city's result environment, which means that they're loading it somewhere else to then reload it and give the information. So it's not secure. At the worst case scenario, it's not secure. Now, we all know what we saw on election day. We all know what we discovered on the runoff election. We know what happened in Maricopa. We know what happened in Mesa County. We know what happened in Nevada. Like, we have information from everywhere. And the difficult part for anyone to understand, now I'm talking to the people who just don't believe it. They don't believe that the election's stolen. They don't believe that it could happen. You're relying on trust me, bro. It's much easier. It's actually, I mean, I have to commend you, because you actually have to lie to yourself over and over again, but at least you don't have the headache of trying to figure out or putting in your own mind, yeah, maybe I am a slave. It's a pretty good chance I'm a slave. Okay. But I'm trying to talk to you about this because I want you to understand that it's not just one thing. It's not just one thing. You can't steal an election without access to data, if you don't take chess pieces off the table, which is why they're fighting everything, right? And we saw what happened with Raul. We've talked about that. We've talked about what happened with, the ballot harvesting. That we should get rid of the mail-in ballots, because you can print 1 million ballots and you don't know where they came from, and they come in on different paper. And I think the one thing that could be said is that you could probably discover that the paper is different in certain areas, and that they used paper they weren't supposed to in the election that created an outcome. That's probably very true, right? But there's opportunity in chaos. And so we have to look at this from the opportunity that's been created to create this chaos. And the sequence described by Coomer was result cartridges, NAS staging, RTR road, export result files, and WinEDS. Now, when you load these yourself, and let's just say you were the one to load them. You're Eric Coomer. You're loading those. Why is a vendor doing that? Why is a vendor doing that outside the purview of the city or the state? Where's that documented? I can tell you it's not in Chicago. It's not documented. So I just went and had to ask questions, and I did this a while back, but there is nothing that says that there was any communication between the two. None. Zero. So you have a system that doesn't work. It doesn't work days before. It doesn't work the day of. November 3rd, they're in there. Literally, you could look through some of the emails. They're literally on November 3rd, on election day. On election day. And this is what was said for Coomer's actions. Let me just go through it real quick. It's November 3rd at 12:01 a.m. Reports 6 actual cartridges, data copied from server workstations to the NAS. Manual loading into the RTR. Export when EDS loads. Says, I'm now trying to load the largest cartridge and about to start the remaining 47. Okay. 8:38 a.m. writes, when I bulk upload the remaining 47 cartridges last night, all at once, the process completed in 2 hours. Says 4 city cartridges will not load now. And he tried repeating start from scratch with the raw data card. Report 37,478 then accounted for EV ballots and an effort to restore a cook image for use on the city side. 4:09 p.m. Got through the entire day. We just got the clone up and running, trying to load the 7,300 ballot cartridge. 11:18 p.m. Now, the 11:18 is going to become a really familiar time. First cartridge loaded, 3 more to go. 11:18. Now, what do you think happened at 11 o'clock at night? Between 10 and midnight, the Edison Zero. And this is why I tell people you have to put all the information together. I'm actually reading a report that I've been drafting that kind of goes through, why use a NAS, why when EDS is such an important piece to this. When you have a network repository, you're putting something on a separate place. You didn't document it in any of it as to where that documented place was. And nobody knows where the NAS is. Where is it? Where's the documentation that shows that the information was then stored on a separate NAS? That's not a chain of custody. That's not transparency. That's I can do whatever the hell I want. You just have to trust the outcome. And here's a guy that said, don't worry about it. Trump's not going to win. I made effing sure of it. All right. If you made sure of it, tell me how in the world is someone supposed to believe you when you can't even tell the truth about what your part was on November 3rd, 2020? I mean, I'm not even talking about running into buildings. I'm not talking about any of this stuff being a skinhead or a racist or a whatever else you want to call it, right? Satanist, all that stuff is important. Radical leftists, anti-fight. But you can't even tell the basic truth about this and your involvement here. What happened between 8 a.m. and 4 p.m.? What happened between 4 p.m. and 11 p.m.? We don't know. We don't have some of those emails. Some of them we do. Some of them we do. We have some. So there's no oversight. And you can say, well, oversight doesn't necessarily mean that we have election fraud. Okay. This is the you don't get access to things. You have a guy that lies over and over and over again. Literally, I mean, just lies when the truth would be better. He's inside the system. You can't rely on the information because it has no chain of custody. You broke that. Any election in the world, it would be bunk and you'd have to redo it. But we're supposed to just trust that this is okay. And then there comes the thing that I find interesting. In the Fulton County Special Purpose Grand Jury, Eric Coomer testified, and that caused the August 2023 indictment of President Trump. Okay. Now, he testified that he doesn't have access. He lied. So he lied here. Cook County, Illinois, Chicago knew nothing about it. He lied again when he said he didn't have access, which is not true. And that he was basically a water boy is basically what he said, which is not true. And then we have to talk about the other things that Eric Coomer did. And I'm trying to stay as benign as possible here because we have a couple things we're sending to the court and we have a couple things we're going to send to the government so that they can have a heyday with some of this stuff, right? They should have. The fact that Darleaf put some of this stuff out, there's other stuff that he hasn't put out yet and that I don't have access to, but I have a pretty good idea what it is. This shows you everything about, people have been convicted of murder for less, a lot less. And when we start looking at the elections being run by Sequoia and Dominion, and you start looking at the behaviors of the Dominion employees, they were basically the cartel. They could make anything happen, do anything they want. And you could see that inside of the Mesa County reports. Google me, Coomer. Yeah, I'm still talking about Coomer. Why hasn't the Trump DOJ gone after him? I don't know. I mean, we just talked about the entire DOJ, previous DOJ, Secretary of State, everyone that works for the same law firm. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, as I go through this report and I start building this report, I'll post all of it super dry, but it at least will give you an idea of where I think that this is all headed. All right. Let's see what this one is. Okay. Those are I can skip through those. I don't need to pull those up. I need to put them into a file, and I put them into a file where I had 37 or 38 pieces where it was up there. There's 3 Mesa County reports. We'll post those as well. And guys, I need to post those Mesa County reports where we put them in our own depository. So if we can do that, that'd be great. Just download them and do that. Here's the bottom line. I keep going through all the stuff that we are dealing with right now. And we have the Shiloh Hendricks case up in Minnesota tried for disorderly conduct, violation of the First Amendment. The judge, by the way, we were able to identify that piece of trash judge is a radical leftist ideologue who decided that they could just throw it out and say, no. Gave jury instructions to say that disorderly conduct is calling someone the N-word. Now, I find the N-word reprehensible, and I find it reprehensible no matter who says it. Even when a black person says it against a black person, I don't like it, right? I don't think self-degradation is a good idea, but I also recognize that it's people's First Amendment right. I have to say this, though. When Shiloh Hendricks was found guilty, she was sentenced to 90 days in jail, suspended but 1 year probation, 200 hours of community service, and supervised probation, 200 hours of community service, and a fine, a large fine. When I saw that, I went back and I looked at the guy that never showed up, by the way. He went back to Somalia. But I think it's important for you to understand that guy with a friend was charged with raping a young girl. And that testified that he took her into the deal, did not give her any food or anything else, raped her repeatedly, and then let her go. The judge, the DA in this case, the same DA that we have here, DA's office that we have here, dismissed in the interest of justice those charges against him. Dismissed them outright. And left the victim to fend for herself. So you have a child rapist who doesn't like the fact that he was called the N-word, whose son, daughter, maybe accomplice was stealing from the child of Shiloh Hendricks. And somewhere along the line, they decided to throw that case out, raping a child. That's a judiciary. So I wrote this, which I think is interesting because I think it's what we're facing right now. When law becomes a suggestion, not the rule to operate from, when the Constitution can be discarded with ease, we are in a lawless society driven by evil, not good. And to those ends, you know what our obligation is to our fellow Americans. Any question? And I called out President Trump and semi called him out and said, "Listen, I don't know. Blink twice if you feel like you're being held hostage." But I think we all can see it. We can all see that something's not right. I mean, nothing seems to be operating from a position of making sense. But we're in a lawless society now. We literally live in a lawless society. So in a lawless society, why pay taxes? Why do any of the things they tell us we have to do when they have dictated or created an environment that's untenable? It's impossible to live in. So something to consider. All right, we're going to take a commercial break. When we come back, we're going to talk about the DOJ. We're going to talk about laws that they keep putting in place and this march towards continued insanity while we sit on the sidelines and let it happen. We'll be right back.
Oh, hi. I almost didn't see you there. Welcome to DCF Buns, where you can find the freshest buns in town, if I do say so myself. Our master bakers teach class every week. So whether you're new to baking or trying to improve your culinary skills, we got you covered. And we can help you bake the cake of your dreams. We'll even clean your cake if you want. And if you don't want to bake anything yourself, we have loads of fresh buns available in a variety of shapes and sizes. Check us out at dcfbuns.com to learn more. DCF Buns, we keep the buns hot and the deals hotter. Buns.
In every thread, in every stitch, Honor-Bound USA weaves the fabric of the American spirit. It's not just apparel, it's a testament to God, family, and country. At Honor-Bound USA, we're a family of patriots who put our faith, family, and America first. When you visit our website, you'll find a line of products that embody our commitment to pray, stand, speak, and act. As the official site for the Untamed podcast, all of our products proclaim speaking the truth with courage. We also have the powerful documentary from Professor David Clements, Let My People Go. Identify yourself as one of the few who are willing to stand for what they believe in. Join the Honor-Bound USA family today. Wear it as a badge of honor, commitment to the values that shape us, and a pledge to the bright future we will build together. Because when you're honor-bound, you're not just wearing a brand, you're embodying a lifestyle.
Those are the names of the new transgender dolls that will reportedly debut this fall in Minnesota classrooms to kids as young as 4. They even include removable genitals. My Gender Dolls was launched by 2 professors at the University of Minnesota Medical School, which reportedly began as a research project at the taxpayer-funded university. The big weekend show reached out to the university and My Gender Dolls for comment, but we have not heard back. I wonder why, Tommy. This is not your father's Hasbro, is it?
No, this is not. This is not the Mr. Potato Head that us millennials grew up with. Certainly a different flavor there. This is bizarre. This is upsetting. I don't understand. I thought that there was a time of reckoning after 2024 when the left and some of these types that are pushing this realize this isn't popular with your everyday American. It's just not. We don't want our kids playing with, movable gender dolls. We just want them to learn reading, writing, arithmetic. That's a big enough problem, right? But no, they're back. Woke never left. Woke just simply went on a hiatus, and it's full bore now.
Went on a hiatus and decided to come back and do the same thing again because they're heading into the 2026 midterms, and chaos favors the odd, doesn't favor the people. And the CIA is still doing what they can to steal elections, and we don't have fair and free elections in any state and any part of our country. Now, we know who our enemy is. We know that these 2 radical, leftist, evil, demonic professors need to go on somebody's list. I'm not going to tell you whose list it is. I'm not going to tell you if you live in Minnesota and you're sick and tired of your children being groomed and sexualized, I suggest you make your list. And I'm not telling you what to do on that list, but I will tell you that sooner or later there's going to be a reckoning. And those are the people that should have nothing to do with children or education or anything else at all. They should be ostracized, exiled. Maybe we send them to their own little island like we did back when they went to Australia. Find them their own place. And all these people, all these freaks can all go to the same place. And the rest of us can be normal. But that's not even all. The DOJ just had to sue. This is in Colorado. Just had to sue Colorado because they were giving illegals our tax dollars to go to school for free and not to Americans. Play it.
Colorado is not only violating federal law, but subsidizing education for illegal aliens at taxpayers' expense. Our litigation efforts will not cease until we have fulfilled President Trump's promise that illegal aliens will not obtain preferential treatment over our own nation's own citizens. I imagine this pushback could be popular with the legal citizens in Colorado.
So, Charlie, they want illegal immigrants to get in-state tuition rates, financial assistance, and scholarships.
Yeah, and so what this means is if you live in Wyoming and you want to go to a Colorado university, an illegal alien living in Colorado or residing illegally in Colorado gets these benefits that you, an American citizen living in the state next door, you don't get. And this has been an issue.
And you paid for them.
Well, yeah.
You paid for the college. Yeah, if it's an in-state college, you're paying for that.
Yeah, through federal subsidies, without a doubt.
State subsidies, not federal subsidies. And here's an interesting piece on what the DSA wants to achieve. By the way, none of this is popular amongst anyone, Democrats, Republicans, Independents. The fact that we haven't gotten together and literally pitchforked and tiki-torched this deal, I don't even know what to say. Play this. This is Democratic Socialist America co-chair telling us, this is crazy. Play it.
Of your platform, and I want to ask you, just give me sort of a true or false on these. Abolish the Senate.
True.
Okay. Replace the presidency and Supreme Court as we now know them.
Yep.
Abolish ICE.
Absolutely.
Abolish borders and give amnesty to anyone currently in the U.S. illegally.
As a long-term plan, yep.
Defund the Pentagon.
Absolutely.
Abolish prisons, at least in large part.
Yeah, again, that as part of a long-term program, yeah.
Okay, so no prisons. Government or public ownership of most large corporations.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so then let's go back through some of those then. Abolish the Senate. There are people who are in the Senate now who are very supportive of DSA. They lose their seats?
Well, the Senate is an anachronistic institution.
Anachronistic institution. She has no idea what she's even saying. This is what they want. They're telling you up front that they want. Does anybody in the United States even think that's even a real thing? Well, they can steal elections. Listen, let me say for the people in the very back of the room. It's not a real election. None of your fucking elections are real. None. They're not real. They're not real. You have one election. You just have one election. It would just take one simple election. One election to show you just how retarded these people are and the fact that even Democrats don't vote for them. And it's also going to show you that a vast majority of people aren't voting. They aren't voting. They aren't voting. They're disgusted with it. I talk to people all the time. They're like, yeah, why vote? Democrats, why vote? Republicans, why vote? Independents, they take whatever the hell they want anyway, Joe. Why vote? People that are in the military are like, we're just waiting for it to pop off. And we know who the enemy is. As long as we know who the enemy is, and the enemy is not the people, the enemy is not our fellow American, the enemy is the people trying to steal from us, take from us, and do what this piece of trash wants us to do. It's crazy. It's totally crazy. And this is who's calling you an extremist on the internet. I want you to understand that they're calling you an extremist. This is what's going to call you extremist. Go play it. They're calling you an extremist. Makes perfect sense. President Trump was asked when he was boarding Air Force One today, when he got on Air Force One, about the SAVE Act and the fact that Republicans are leaving town. Play it.
Senate on the SAVE Act. Why do you want the U.S. Senate to stay in town? Shouldn't they be out across the country campaigning?
What a stupid question.
Shouldn't they be out and be campaigning, though?
What a stupid question. For Jennifer to ask such a stupid, she's a smart person. I knew her all the way back in the Iowa days when she said Trump's going to win. And boy, was she right. So listen, why do I want it? The SAVE Act has to be done. They shouldn't leave town. I'm not going to stop them from doing it, but they should get the SAVE Act done. If they don't get it done, it's going to be a very bad thing for the party. And frankly, you know, if you look at it, the SAVE Act is going to be voted against by all Democrats, just so we know. We have some Republicans that I will not comment on, a few of them, probably 4, that we probably won't get the vote. I'd like to comment on them, but I have too much sense to.
I'd like to comment on them, but I have too much sense. Just think about that. Think about that. I mean, and then I want to show you this document, if you would. Can we put that document up? Document that I put in the thing is the post. No? Can I? One that I put up previously? Yeah. As I'm sitting here going through stuff, and by the way, I've had some just crazy conversations with people. Crazy. About what's happening, what's getting ready to happen. This is a summary. And this is, let me just start reading it here. On select intelligence reporting from 2004 to 2020. Okay, just so you know, 2004 to 2020. Intelligence community reported the 2004 to 2020 documented persisting concerning about Venezuelan government manipulation of electronic voting systems and the potential national security implications for U.S. election infrastructure. The intelligence established the Venezuelan government officials developed suitable interest and likely some capability in manipulating electronic voting systems, including Smartmatic technology, to influence electoral outcomes in Venezuela. The 2006 intelligence community assessment that Smartmatic ties to Venezuela posed a national security threat was based on solid intelligence regarding Venezuelan government intent to influence U.S. politics and evidence of Venezuelan manipulation of their own election systems. The assessment led to U.S. government action forcing Smartmatic to divest its U.S. operations in 2007. Uh-oh. The little butt thing is blacked out. I'm wondering who that is. Blank reporting indicated that electronic voting systems contain vulnerabilities that could theoretically be exploited by sophisticated actors with insider access. However, while the intelligence validated significant concerns about foreign-linked voting technology vendors, it did not definitively confirm that large-scale electronic fraud was successfully executed in specific Venezuelan elections. CIA baseline assessments remaining that other factors were better explained electoral outcomes. The reporting on advanced techniques like provided concerning insights into alleged Venezuelan government capabilities and intent, but came from limited sources. Intelligence sources between 2004 and 2020 reported that Venezuelan President Hugo Chavez and his successor, Nicolas Maduro, demonstrated sustained interest in manipulating election outcomes through electronic voting systems in April 2024 or 2004. The objective was to prevent the re-election of a sitting U.S. president, suggesting intent to influence U.S. domestic policies. This finding was part of the basis for the intelligence community in 2006. And this goes through a letter. Okay, so let me just take this down for you, okay? Because here's what they're trying to do. They're trying to tell you that it's just the presidential election. They can steal any election at any time. They can steal any election that they want at any time. They steal as many as they want. They've been proving that. They stole Virginia. They stole Minnesota. They stole Colorado. They steal whatever they want. Primaries, generals. If we don't pass the SAVE Act and take at least a few pieces off the table, we're done. I'm telling you right now, you're done. We're going to get all the way into November and you're going to be done. And you're going to be saying to yourself, something has to change. Well, it does have to change. It absolutely does have to change. But it's not going to change until you get rid of the machines and mail-in ballots, get the voter rolls, hand count, in-person, precinct level, and you'd save 90%. But they don't want to do it because it has never been about the money. It has always been about making you an institutional slave. Well, that's all I got for you today. Yeah. The stuff that was put out there by Darleaf is damning. It's damning more to, and right now, yeah, I am concerned just for Eric Coomer. Like, I just think that guy needs to go down for his part in stealing the elections in 2020. Period. I want that to happen. I want him to face the penalties for what he and others have done, including his lawyers. They all knew. They all had access to the information. Now I got more information. My lawyer just said, no, you can't send that out yet. So there's more information that's going to be coming out. Way more. Has nothing to do with Darleaf or anything else. There's a lot coming out right now. And over the next month or so, one thing I'll say about President Trump is he's actually really chill about it right now, which means that I know that he's going to be doing something here relatively quickly. So we'll see how it goes. We'll pray about it. All right. So Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, and more. We're also on Amazon and Roku. See if I got any comments in here that are interesting. Sedition 101. Sounds like someone should be arrested after this interview. Yes, unless you're talking about me. Yeah, that's it. That is it. Remember to share, do your thing. Good to see that Eric Coomer's little boy, or whatever you want to call it, is over here listening to the show. So he's out of the country, but the lawyers just keep writing more and more things. They lost the PPO, and yeah, now we just get to go after them. It's going to be fun. It's nice to be on offense for once. All right, let's pray. Father God, thank you for the opportunity to be here today. Thank you for just thank you for allowing us to be faithful and to just watch this process and carry through the process to get to a result that holds people accountable for the things they've done to this country and to this world. Father, we know that ultimately there's just a lot of evil out there. We'd sure like to be able to destroy a little bit of Team Evil's hold on the United States and other states and countries around the world. Father, we ask you to give us the strength to stand and the wisdom to know when to act and when not to act. More importantly, that we can come together as a community, setting aside any sort of political football team, and to the greater good of serving our people, American people. Father, we're grateful for to be born at a time such as this, and we're grateful for the time that we've been able to spend together, getting to know each other, and that this has brought in unlikely alliances and great friendships. And for that, I'm grateful. I say these things in Jesus' name. Amen. All right. We'll see you guys soon. It's good to be with you. And yeah. I do want to say this about Bukele. He says, if you don't impeach the corrupt judges, you cannot fix the country. They will form a cartel and block all reforms, protecting the systematic corruption that put them in their seats. We're heading towards a war, guys. I'm telling you right now, we're heading towards a war. And the only way that we're going to get out of that war is for someone to have a Julius Caesar moment. And who knows who that is? Could it be Mike Flynn? Who could it be? Who's the guy that can stand up and finish what needs to be done in order to give the American people back their sovereignty? That's the thing we'll be looking for. God bless you. We'll see you soon.
rise up untamed. In the heart of the fire where the wild ones roam, Joe Oltmann's calling, bringing truth back home. From conservative daily to this untamed fire, we shatter the silence, lifting spirits higher. No chains can hold us, no lies can prevail. Authentic and fearless on this rugged trail. Patriots gather under stars and stripes. Untamed nation, igniting the night. Untamed nation, let the truth roll out in this land of the free. Standing proud from sea to shining sea, we won't back down. Catch the fire, wear the crown. Untamed nation, it's our battle song, motivating hearts where the brave belong. Yeah, untamed and wild, forever strong. Play it again all night long. Break the mold, chase the real, no more games, time to heal. Joe's voice leads the untamed crew. Truth matters through and through. Untamed nation, let the truth roll out in this land of the free. Standing proud from sea to shining sea, we won't back down. Catch the fire, wear the crown. Untamed nation, it's our battle song, motivating hearts where the brave